What do you call a lamb with a belt-fed machine gun? Lambo. The ammunition and equipment you see featured in today's episode of The Quiet Rifle came to me courtesy of Hermann Sporting Guns and Air Rifle Slugs Australia. Hermann's were nice enough to send me some slug liners so that I can test these heavier slugs out and make these videos for you. So if you do like what you see, make sure you skip on over to Hermann Sporting Guns website. There'll be a link in the description. They stock all things FX, lots of different accessories from lots of different manufacturers, full-size firearms, pistols, and a wide range of optics and accessories. So make sure you check them out. Air Rifle Slugs Australia are carrying probably the widest range available of slugs in Australia today. They have everything from Zan, NSA, H&N, FX hybrids, Patriot Javelins, you name it, they've got it. There is a 10% discount option on Air Rifle Slugs Australia at the moment. If you pick any 5 items with the hashtag logo in front of the title description of that item on their website, you'll get 10% off. So here we are on the Air Rifle Slugs Australia website. We'll skip down to 22 caliber slugs and pellets just for an example. You'll see here on the Zans there's a little hashtag in front. So not on the Patriots at the moment, but Zan, H&N, RAB, and a whole bunch of other stuff. NSA, all these NSA ones have got it. So 5 of them and you'll get your 10% off, and it's calculated automatically at checkout. So we're going to go add to cart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go check out the cart. And you can see here it has automatically added a 10% discount. Doesn't have to be the same 5 things. You can get 5 different things as long as it has this little hashtag. Then you're good to go for your discount. I don't make any commissions or anything off this. There's no like promo codes or anything. Just jump on there and fire away and save yourself some dollary dues. And finally, if you live further away from the Brisbane area, because that's where Air Rifle Slugs Australia is located, jump on the SJs Trading Code dealer website and find yourself a nice dealer near you so you can pick up one of these amazing Element Optics scopes. I'm running the Titan at the moment and I absolutely love it. Ugh, it's so hot. Right. Today, we're going to talk about the Patriot Javelins, specifically the 30 grain 22 cal. I decided to go with some 217s for these 30 grainers because they're quite heavy, and I've got also some 34s, courtesy of Airgun Slugs Australia, and these are in 218, and I have found that throughout my sort of fondling around with them, we've got 26 grainers, 30 grainers and 34 grainers, all from Javelin, which will all be getting reviewed as time goes on. Specifically today, concentrating on the 30 grainers. But the heavy 22 seems to be quite difficult to push down range. So if you are planning on using these, they like to be shot fast. I'll tell you from the get-go. They don't like being shot slowly. From my experience, they like to be hooking on above 950 if possible. Anything below that, and they're just, I don't know, they seem to just really enjoy the speed. And to generate that much power and that much speed, you need a lot of chutzpah in your boomstick. And mine doesn't really have any great power mods for that in 22. My rig that I'm running today for this particular review for the 30s, KLS2 stock, beautiful adjustable stock from Craft & Lift. Pellet probe carrier, also from Craft & Lift. Power plenum. Now this is where most of my power comes from. Because I don't really have any other power mods on the gun. It's pretty much just the plenum in the case of the 22. About 75 cc's total, so 25 for the old one plus 50-ish. That does the job for pretty much everything, but I think in the near future I'm going to need a slug power kit, and I think I'm going to revisit this test and see if I can get better accuracy results if I push them up over 1,000 feet per second or right around that 1,000 feet per second mark. And Craft & Lift rail extension, very nice, Arca Swiss all the way along. Picatinny rail T-slot so I can mount my nice little Vipertech bipod. X-Tech scope rings with a Element Optics Titan, and that's sitting on another Craft & Lift product. This is the range extender, which is very nice. I was using the Giga Rail, but with a low mount like this one, particularly because this has 5 MRAD of elevation built into it, the objective bell end of this scope tends to sit on the Giga rail, which isn't good. So I'm going to have to get some higher mounts if I want to run that. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Any hoozles, my gun did just barely make enough power to shoot these slugs, but it wasn't shooting them confidently. It seems to work fine with this weight of slug in 25 caliber, but for 22, my gun, maybe it's just choked a little too hard at the end. I don't know. And then when you switch over from a 217 to a 218 slug, it's even tighter and there's even more friction, and to get the same speed I have to lube the pellets, and then even then it's like, it's still like 20 feet per second off where I want it to be. So yeah, it's a little tricky to get these things to shoot if your gun doesn't make enough power. If your gun does make enough power, however, giddy up. They can be really good. So we've seen what the people who make them and design them, Rolf, Matt Dubber, and Harad, they're popping pigeons at 200 meters with these things, so no biggie there. But yeah, their guns are all modified for power, so I'm going to have to get a slug power kit. And I think I'm going to go to the FX 720 plenum just for a sleeker look. So we'll see how that goes. But I've been impressed by these slugs nonetheless, especially considering the conditions that I was shooting in them. It was actually raining the day that I tested these slugs, and it was a bad day to be on the range. But we got the job done. I shot a couple of reasonably good groups, and I think I've got enough to share for a review. So 30 grain javelins, 22 caliber, 217s, and the BC is 0.094. That's very high, so that's good. Most ballistic coefficient options within pretty much every ballistic app other than Strelok. Strelok's the best in my opinion, because you can have all sorts of strange ballistic coefficients, high, low, good, bad or otherwise, and it'll just work it out for you. But if you're using something like a Kestrel or the internal computer on the scope of the ATN night sights and that sort of thing, you want to have a ballistic coefficient that is as close to 0.1 as you can to make those ballistic calculations correct, or correct enough that it won't make any real difference. And 0.094 is right up there, so you can pretty much, if you have a less accurate ballistic computer and it requires you to use 0.01, you'll be able to do that, no dramas. Weights. As far as weights go, I tested 50 slugs out of this little bucket. Where are we? Oh, so sweaty. It's like 50 degrees in here at the moment. But I can't go anywhere because my neighbour's mowing his lawn, so I can't do this video outside. 50 of these bad boys. 25 of them came out at 29.9 grains. 9 of them came out bang on 30. 11 of them came out 30.1, and 5 came out at 30.2. That's pretty good. That's not the best I've ever seen. The previous ones that I did, the Zan projectiles, were much tighter than that. But this is very usable and very consistent. It's one of those things where it doesn't always need to be perfect, but we've got pretty much all of them, 45 of them within 0.1 grain high or low. So it is a little bit wider, but it's still pretty good. I'm still happy with that. It's not like you're buying, like an old H&N pellet where one of them weighs like 15.9 and the next 5 of them weigh 17. So yeah, it's all good. It's very tight, so happy with that. The condition they come in, usually I find the condition that slugs come in is reflective of how they're packaged. This is a reasonably good way of packaging them. I like that it doesn't take up too much room in my safe, which is nice because I've got a lot of different shapes. I've got ammo tins, I've got ammo boxes, I've got slides, I've got all sorts of different things. And it's nice because you can fit lots of these in your safe. It's a little bit smaller than the old Nielsen, and noticeably smaller than the Zans and the FX. So it's a good way to store them. It does, however, give you a few little small bumps on the bearing surface of the slug, a couple of little bumps on the base, around the rim of the base, but they do have very nice big clean hollow points, and overall it's sort of about a 8 out of 10. So I would give them, weight consistency 8 out of 10 and condition 8 out of 10 as well. So both really good, not the best, but really good, and I'm happy to make that trade considering how accurate they still are, even though they have those few little blemishes, and it's nice to have such small packaging, so yeah, happy with that. Price. I have put them on my little price chart in the yellow, so they're fair. I would say that they're a fair price. They're fair to average, and as far as you look across the market of reasonably priced, good quality ammo in Australia, I would say this is a fair price. It's not cheap, it's not expensive, it's fair. And that comes out at 18.5 cents per shot, or $37 for a pack of 200. If we look around above and below that, we've got the Zan 30.5 grainers at 15 cents per shot, NSA 31.2 grainers at 12.3 cents per shot, which is very cheap, and the H&N 30s at 13 cents, which is also pretty cheap. So they're a little tiny bit more expensive than most of the other stuff on the market, but not by much. It's not outrageous, and I think, oh, I'm so sweaty. I think it's fine. I'm happy with the price. As far as tuning went, on this particular round, I tuned my valve to about 11 millimeters, which is pretty full on. That's wider than wide open. I had 175 bar reg pressure and 16 mil of hammer spring, so everything was like opened right up. And I think because of that, not only did I have an atrocious shot count, I was getting 28 shots per 50 bar, so 42 shots per fill for a 22, which is pretty hectic. But I think it's an airflow issue. It's a friction issue and it's an airflow issue. I just need to change a few little different parts in my gun to let it breathe a little bit better when I pull the trigger, and I reckon I'd be able to do a much better job of tuning this, because I wasn't really happy with the tune that I put down on this one. It wasn't as consistent as my tunes normally are, and I think that's because I was like winding it right up to try and get too much speed out of it. I had to sort of accept that I was going to shoot these slower than I wanted to. So in the end, my most accurate shooting was done at a lighter tune than that. I left the hammer spring a little bit less than that. I think it was about 17.5 mil of hammer spring gap. So a couple of clicks back on the wheel, and it took me back from 950 to 960 all the way back to about 900. And they started grouping a little better than they did at that super high speed. But the reason they weren't grouping well at that super high speed is because I was asking too much of the gun. I was too far up on the old tuning graph. If you cast your mind back to my very first tuning vid of when I tuned my FX Crown, we made a graph, and there was a crazy bumpy bit right up the end of that graph, and then it sort of, as you come back down off peak power, it becomes much more consistent, and it starts consistently making good power. And that was my gun was only able with these rounds to make good consistent power to about 900 feet per second. So those good groups were shot 900 to 905 feet per second, and the higher speed groups were, it was good. It was like 960, 960, 960, 960. Then it would be like 948 or 972, and it would just pump one way off into the distance. And it was just because I was asking too much of it for it to actually be consistent. So yeah, so a little bit tricky to tune with these. Highly recommend a slug power kit and a power plenum if you haven't already got one. Yeah. Let's look at the accuracy. Alrighty, so here we are. So this is my 25 meter zero group. They performed really well at 25 meters. They weren't affected by the wind at all, but I mean, you would want to hope so with a BC of 0.09 at 25 meters. But it was very windy and it was raining, and I only fired 2 groups at 25 because I was getting pretty salty pretty quick with the weather. So here we are, tiny little group. We'll go outside to outside. We're looking at 6 or 7 millimeters, and same again for this one. As you would expect, maybe not quite as precise as pellets are at that close range, but still pretty bloody precise. So I was happy with that, and I thought, let's not waste any more time. Let's not get drenched. Let's try and keep as much water off the gun as I can, and move back to 50 and get this show on the road. Pretty well par for the course with all of these slugs. There's basically zero drop between 25 and 50 meters. It's just dead flat the whole way along. So yeah. No need to adjust. Once you step it out from 50 to 100 though, you do get maybe 2 mils of drop, so that's worth noting. It's a good place to start. Just dial 2 MRAD onto your scope and then shoot. Don't waste your rounds. But very nice, very small groups. 20 mil. This one's been blown out by the wind a little bit. As you can see here, I just reiterate, it was raining and it was windy. And something else I noticed was that oftentimes if you get a strong headwind, especially coupled with rain, it actually knocks a little bit of your elevation down, which is what happened with this one. I stacked these two right next to each other, and then big old blotter of rain just came and dumped on me, and I got those three down the bottom there. I figured I'd shoot a 5-round group just for giggles. And that one is 1.5 inches or thereabouts, so a little bigger than I would like at 50 meters, but another 3-rounder down here, looking at 15 mil down there at the most, and another 5-rounder over here, which is coming in at just over 1 inch. So pretty good at 50 meters, not ultra precise, but happy enough to skip on out to 100 from there. All right, 30 grain patties in the rain. Check this out. This group over here confused me deeply. There were 2 groups here, and I was like, what is happening? Because I think this was before I wound it down. And you tend not to see big errors like this at 25 and 50. You really only see big errors like this at 75 and 100. So this is what we're talking about. How it's nice and consistent. It's bang 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 bang, and then bong bong bing bong bong honk, and you just get a whole bunch of craziness if you're pushing your gun too hard. So this is my bad tune coupled with the wind and the rain. So there's a few different factors at play here, and I really don't think it's the ammunition, because we looked at the numbers and they're very consistent as far as weights go. So yeah, I'm thinking that these groups down here, even in horrible conditions, are indicative of what you should expect. So we got 1.6, 1.5, just under 1.5, and there's a 5-round group over here, just on 2. So in windy and rainy conditions on a horrible day with a substandard tune, I've managed to pull out between 1 and 2 MOA, but honestly, I think that in conditions that most people are normally going to shoot, you're going to see, assuming that you can shoot them over 950, I think you're going to have a good time with them, and I think you're going to get MOA groups all day long, because they're consistent enough for that. From my comparisons with all the other slugs that I've reviewed over time, anything with plus or minus, 1 or 2 grains as far as weight goes, and that are delivered in reasonably good condition, they all shoot MOA groups at 100 meters if you have your tune right. So I think push them 950 to 1,000, leaning towards 1,000 feet per second, and you'll have a great time with them. So yeah, happy with the accuracy, not blown away, but garbage conditions and a garbage tune, still with pretty good results. So yeah. So in conclusion, as I quickly begin to die of dehydration from sweating too much, I think these slugs are going to treat you well. They aren't the most precise as far as weights go, but they are reasonably priced. I wouldn't say they're cheap, but they're definitely not expensive, and they shoot really well in garbage conditions. My place pretty much always is garbage conditions, but this particular day, swirling wind and rain, like actual rain, they did really well for those conditions, especially considering my substandard tune that I had going on there. When I did get those smaller groups, we're talking 900 feet per second, and they do much better when you push them much harder than that. Yes, definitely worth a try. I think I'm going to come back and revisit them after I've put a slug power kit in the old Impact, and I would reserve any judgments on the validity of my accuracy testing until after I've juiced up my gun a little bit. So I think what I might do in the meantime, with the few that I have left, maybe even with these 34s, I might do the little scallop trick on the 22 caliber pellet probe. So basically you just grind off half of the front of the 22 probe, and that allows the air to flow a little better. So I might get a little bit more schmutz out of it, but for now she's a bit asthmatic. Good round though, you should definitely try it. Toodaloo.